We're here. We made it.
We're live.
It's another. Did we do this last week? We did not, did we? I don't remember.
Do what? No, we didn't do it last week.
No, we didn't do it last week.
No.
I had family stuff, I think.
Yeah, something came up.
Yep. But we're back this week. And then also, and we're not on our normal day. Normally we do Tuesday. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
So if you're here and you didn't mean to be, or you weren't expecting it, we weren't either, but here we are. And then next week I have an engagement Tuesday night, so I won't. So we may need to do Wednesday again next week if that works for you.
Yeah, if that works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I go through withdrawal.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, it's very helpful. Yeah, it's very good. So have we talked about holidays much? I guess we did a little bit.
Holidays?
I don't know, like Christmas and New Year's and Boxing Day and all those other holidays that Canadians have.
Yeah, my holidays they just kind of, I mean, it was like intensive care animal hospital here all through the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
It was just brutal, Jeremy. I mean, just thinking about it, I get a pain in my stomach because, I mean, Lily was sudden. I didn't know she had cancer, and things just progressed really. You know how they are in the end stages of cancer, right? It's like, and so that happened 4 days before Christmas. I had to take her and have her put down. And then, but it was a mercy because she was in extraordinary pain, and then Hulk started to fail, which we knew was coming, but it was like, I think he was having an organ failure. I'm not quite sure. We didn't take him to the vet.
Yeah.
And so I did everything I knew how to do to, get him past it. Cause he's had these like moments, for the last year where he fails suddenly and then he picks up. So I didn't know what was going to happen. And it just got really terrible. And so, it was, I literally sat vigil for 3 days with him in this room. And then finally it was just, no, we were done. He was done.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah. And that,
easy losing old friends.
No, and especially ones that just want to live.
Yeah.
That was really, he kept trying to stand and he couldn't. And, it was not good. So anyway, that was very emotional. Yeah. I failed badly as a Christian.
All death is a tragedy. I think that, all death is a tragedy.
It never totally is. It's such a tragedy, and I think because it was so intense for those last 3 days, I wasn't getting much sleep, the whole 9 yards. It was really like being at someone's deathbed, Yeah, I was at his deathbed, actually.
Yeah.
And when it came down to it, I lost my shit. Just to be honest, I have to keep myself accountable.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't. Yeah. After it was over, I was just like, "What in God's name happened here?" Everything. I was just holding it together. My husband said to me, "Shari, it's just been so much."
Yeah.
So he forgave me, but I didn't forgive me. It's hard to forgive yourself, Jeremy.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. It is.
So that preoccupied me, actually, all that,
right.
Not just me losing my, cool, but also the fact that I couldn't rally my forgiveness for myself. My compassion on myself, right?
Yeah,
it was all reserved for other things. It's and that's a problem. That was a serious problem for me, and obviously remains so. Anyway,
well, sometimes
that was a learning curve.
No, sometimes these things happen, I think, to like, I don't know. In my own life, I've noticed there'll be times where I'm going along and I'm like, oh, things are going pretty well. Like I think
Yeah.
I've made some progress spiritually, which is a really dangerous thing to think. Because like very soon afterwards, something happens that reveals
Crash and
that
burn.
you're relying on your own strength and that you have none. Right. And you go, wow, I guess I still have some stuff that's needs to be healed inside.
Yeah.
And I think God slowly reveals that to us to heal it, right? Like
exactly.
And to remind us to be humble, I think.
My sister uses the example of like a flood, and how the flood comes up and then it washes, it brings everything up and then it washes everything away.
Yeah.
And it's such a good analogy because it's like when things like that happen, like trauma is popping up from all corners of the of the soul, and you're like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? How are they related? What is going on? Like it's all like, anyway, it was, And then a friend said to me, well, this wasn't really about Hulk. This was about you. And meaning, Hulk was doing what a thing does when it's sick and dying, right? And but the lesson wasn't for Hulk. And the lesson was for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think the lesson was that he was?
Well, just what you said. That we think we're going along at, we're doing well. We find out we're not doing as well as we thought. And it's not like embarrassing or anything. Like it doesn't have that effect. Didn't have that effect. It was disappointing, I think, more than anything.
Yeah. I
can
relate. Yeah. I had a couple of similar situations myself in the last couple of weeks. I don't want to go into too much detail, just for privacy reasons.
Right.
But just in a couple of key relationships in my life, I definitely didn't behave in ways like I was surprised. And that's part of the problem. I was surprised at how poorly I behaved in a couple of situations.
Yeah.
And then, there is the afterward. One, the problem is I was surprised. And two, then learning to forgive yourself afterward and realize that, you can continue trying, right? It's not like a do or die situation. And that's been a hard thing for me to learn in all my relationships my whole life. Because like I moved around so much that I never really maintained long-term relationships, even with my family, because I moved between my parents' households, right? So I didn't ever learn how to resolve and how to forgive, and also how to be forgiven.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know. I just ran. That was my whole life,
I think
I've moved like I don't know, 20 times.
A brother from another mother there, Jeremy, for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we moved a ton too.
Yeah.
And I left home at the age of 17, but I was kind of estranged from my own family by the age of 14. Like I was just totally different, train.
Yeah.
And well, I would say there were some rounds of forgiveness and things like that within the family and with friends, but a lot of my family's dynamics were just don't talk about the thing, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you just don't talk about it. I mean, I had been through kind of like I'd been through a real literal hell my 17th year. And I went back home afterwards, and I wanted to tell my parents, what had happened to me in that time, because they had no clue. And they said, no, we don't want to know. I was like, okay. And it was a burden to carry.
Yeah.
Right. When you can't, like, this is the thing, honestly, this was one of the things that I had really on my heart when I decided to become Orthodox, was I needed confession.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because of that, I don't know. I never thought about it. But, it was like, we need to confess to one another, right? Things, because otherwise they're just bound up and locked up and, suppressed, and whatever the case might be. I mean, we shouldn't be, trauma dumping on random strangers.
No, but that's different than
at least
confession,
with your
right?
family, especially your mother or your dad or whatever, that you want to, not necessarily things they did to you, but just things that have happened to you that you need to process.
Yeah.
And they weren't interested.
Yeah, it's that is another benefit I have also found in Orthodoxy, because I had some of the same challenges where it was like I did have I had some resolving conversations with my parents, especially with my dad. I think my mom is not quite aware of how deep the damage was, really, but I don't think she can process it. But that being said, it's like it was definitely more beneficial in Orthodoxy to confess to God with a priest as a witness, who's then able to give you some advice, or even sometimes it's just encouragement or consolation, some comfort.
Wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. And I was close to my father before he passed, and we had that kind of relationship where I could go to him with things that were bothering me and he could help. But when I lost him, I didn't really have anyone else. And I became a catechumen like a week before he passed. Maybe
wow.
2. Yeah. So I didn't really have a chance to share that with him, but I was grateful to have the beginning of a relationship with a priest that I could talk through these things with. It was nice. And I could go to and just say, this is bothering me. And sometimes you go, yeah, that really should bother you. And other times he goes, why is that bothering you? That shouldn't bother you at all. Because I completely lack discernment when it comes to those kinds of things about, honestly, like what's really important to focus on and what's not. I get confused a lot with that.
Well, just in line with what we're going to talk about, like the saint that we're going to talk about, Saint Anthony the Great, one of the Desert Fathers. I think about, well, apparently not quite, because he met Paul.
But he was not the original, but kind of the original.
I know what you mean.
What were you saying? He met Paul who? I cut you off, sorry.
Paul of Thebes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I often think of the hermits, who are bearing these burdens, and they don't have necessarily a lot of human contact. You know what I mean? Like, actually, Paul of Thebes, that was what he said to Saint Anthony the Great. He wanted him to take his confession, I believe, and I think he, when Saint Anthony went out there, he was basically a dying man. He found him in that state.
Yes.
What a grace.
Yeah.
What a grace. Yeah. Like, imagine thinking that you're just going to lay there and die all by yourself with no one to unburden yourself to, right? Like, speaking of what we're talking about.
It reminds me of Saint Mary of Egypt. Same thing, right?
Same.
She's in the desert for 40 years, and then at the end, she gets the chance to talk to a person one more time.
Right.
Well, 2 months.
And share in the body and the blood.
Yes.
You know?
Right. Communion. Yeah.
Communion. Yeah. And it's you know,
And
it's not
confession.
lost on
She
me.
confessed to the priest too, right?
Right. And so it's not lost on me that is communion. It's being with another person and telling them the things that are burdening you, you know, so to speak. So anyway, I didn't have a lot of that in my life, and
Same.
so that was just, you know, was a really big. I never thought that I would even want it. There were things that I had just tucked away and thought, well, you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I confess them in prayer to God, you know, and ask for forgiveness. Like, it's not like, but I don't know how to say this any other way, but that's not enough.
I agree with you. There's something about.
It's not enough.
There's something. Well, I heard somebody say, they said, in order to approach the cross, you have to first begin to experience the humility of, you know, you have to experience humility, and that is what's happening. Is it's one thing to do it privately with God. It's another thing to confess those things out loud in front of someone else who you're going to see again and again and again, and who knows your name and knows your family.
Well, here, let me tell you a little story. Years ago, and I'm trying to remember what connected. Because usually when I would have a dream from God, it would always be in connection with a question I was asking. And I don't remember what my question was when I had this dream. But anyway, I dreamt that I was at the judgment seat. Okay. And I was just, you know, this little person. There's these like feet. That's all I could see.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I got this, right? Like we do when we're about to fast, or, you know, or when we're sitting vigil with a dying dog for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, just thinking to myself, just to go, bring it on, you know, I can take it, you know, from you, I can take it, right? Whatever it is. You know, and we'll sort this out and it'll be fine. And I mean, I'm like, I don't know, 21 years old or something like that, 20 years old, having this dream. And suddenly I hear a cough behind me. And I turn around and it's like, it's shaped like this behind me. Like, and it's just as far as the eye can see, people filling up this room. And suddenly I was terrified. So think about it. Like, I was not terrified standing there with God.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I knew it was going to be painful kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But I was like, I got this. Right. And then, but all of a sudden I heard this cough or a shuffle or something, you know, and I turn around and there's this billions of people standing behind me. And I said to God, are they going to hear all this? And he said, Shari, whatever happened to you happened to them.
Yeah.
That was my dream, Jeremy.
Yeah. And
then I was afraid of the day of the Lord. Okay. Let me tell you. And the thing that came through over the years from that dream was how just that what he said, you know, whatever happened to you happened to them. So, you know, and some of my pain was self-inflicted. Like, so, you know, watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're not just doing it to yourself. You're doing it to the body.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, St. Thaddeus talks about that. He said, if you have negative thoughts about someone, it's almost worse than hitting them. It really is. It's very spiritually damaging.
Yes.
To have negative thoughts about people.
It's a good thing. I agree with St. Thaddeus.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult for me. I have to constantly guard against that. That's something
It's difficult for all of us, like that, not to judge somebody.
Yeah.
And just to let God
right.
Let God do the judging.
Right. Oh, I heard a related story. It was so beautiful. There was a pilgrim at a monastery was asking an elder about the parable of the goats and the sheep, and which one's which, who's who are the goats, who are the sheep. And he paused for a long time, and he said, the goats are me,
Mm-hmm.
and God knows the sheep.
Yes, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the way of the monastic.
Yeah.
I used to really struggle with that passage. Like for 23 years I had goats, and I milked them and helped them give birth, and the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. And we always had a billy goat, and we have this like little narrow bridge that goes across our creek. And in the mornings, I would let the goats out, and they just roamed the place. We have a fence around our yard, but everything else is open. And but in the evenings, I'd have to go put them away. And whenever I would go to cross that little bridge, the billy goat would be standing on it.
It's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
The billy goat cross.
There's a reason for that fairy tale, I'm telling you. I encountered it every freaking night. And, and that my goats had horns.
Yeah.
And, you got a 3 or 4-year-old, 5-year-old billy goat, their horns are massive, eh?
Right. And that hurts. And they can hit you hard.
Oh, yeah. And
if they drop and hit you in the thigh, you could go down pretty easy.
Oh, they can do some serious damage to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knees are especially prone
to
being smashed.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would, when this first started in my life, I would put my foot on the bridge, and I would try to nonchalantly pass him. Of course I couldn't, because all he had to do was tip his horns, which is what he would do, right?
Yeah.
He'd tip his horns and block my path. And he wasn't like coming at me, but he wasn't going to let me pass, and the more aggressive you get with goats, the more aggressive they get with you.
Correct.
And so suddenly this became like this duel of the wills. Okay.
Yes.
And as a human,
it's like having a defiant 4-year-old.
Yeah. And as a human, I feel like I am going to win, right? Because I'm smarter, all this stuff, right? I have hands, I have opposing thumbs. Watch out, buddy.
Right. Yes.
And it would just get dangerous. And here's the thing, this thing, get your goat. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that has a reason too, because these goats can make you so angry, you don't even know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like you're ready to kill them and murder, like brutally.
Yeah. It's the rectangular pupils definitely have an effect.
And anyways, and so suddenly this goat is calling up this demon in me. Right? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not working. I don't like me. I really hate him. This whole thing is really not good. So I decided to just jump across the creek, because it's not that big. And then I get to the other side, and he comes running, and I'm ready for the fight. But then he's all happy because I open the gate and he goes in, and I'm like, okay, so we just completely, like, for I don't know how many days we fought on this bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then I just thought, jump over the creek.
Right.
And he's kind of like mouth agape, if he could.
Yeah, right. He's like, oh wait, I got tricked. Yeah.
But then it was a game.
Yes, right.
And then we all laughed.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And he was just playing King of the Hill, which is what goats do. Right. Well, if you watch goats playing together, that's what they do. He was playing.
And he's the billy goat.
Right. Yes. Yes. He's
right?
also
So
asserting some dominance there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of why I was telling this story, but
Well, we were
I
talking
mean,
about the sheep and the goats,
oh
the
yeah, the
parable,
sheep
and
and the
why you had a
goats.
hard time with that parable.
Yeah, I had a hard time with it because I'm like, well, goats are not evil, and I know that they
Mhm.
get the moniker, and all that stuff, but they're not evil,
Mhm.
and they actually have, like, literally helped me to be a better person.
Well, I was
That's
just gonna say, it sounds like God uses animals quite a bit in your life to
Oh, yeah,
pull stuff
yeah,
out of you that people can't.
right,
Yeah.
and I thought when you said who said that about just an elder.
Yeah, I was an elder. I can't
I'm the
remember who
goat.
it was, but yeah. He said, "Yeah, the goats are me, and
Yeah,
God knows the sheep."
right, and that's what I started to see in that parable was it's not a group of people, it's not a certain group, it's a quality that we
Mhm.
have within us that wants to defy, that wants to,
Yes.
challenge,
Yep.
right? And those are not necessarily bad things.
And eat everything. This is the nice thing about keeping goats and sheep together is that they eat opposite things. Like goats will eat weeds and sheep will eat grass. Goats have
Mhm.
no interest in grass and sheep have no interest in weeds, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, anyway, um,
mm. Yeah,
keeping
no,
livestock, all these things just really come to life, and then
yes.
it just all I'm saying with that whole thing is that it really helped me to understand that this is qualitative and not quantitative in the sense that
Mm.
we're talking about a group of people and
Mhm.
a group of people because I grew up where these people, the goats, they're all just going to hell, right? They're not elect.
Mm.
And these people, the sheep, they're good,
Mm.
right? And they're going to heaven. And that's
Mhm.
that. That's the end of the story. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, but goats shouldn't go to hell
Yeah. Yeah.
because goats have helped me to understand who I am.
Right. Right.
And that's that, I think, opponent processing.
Yeah, and I like the idea too that we don't well, I mean, this elder who's at the end of his life is not is humble enough to realize that he has no idea which category he's in, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and
he
yeah.
doesn't know himself as well as God knows him, and
Well, and
and
he
I
also
his humility
recognizes,
comes forth in that answer, right?
yeah, and he recognizes that he's also a goat.
Right.
He's a goat
That's right.
and a sheep.
Yes.
That's why it's a quality to me anyway. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
interpret scripture, but
No, yeah.
that's why it's qualitative because, you know, yeah, I don't know if I need to repeat it, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a matter of and it's a matter of recognizing that if you try to think about what category you might be in, you're already in the wrong category. Like
exactly. You're asking
you
the
need
wrong
to
question.
yeah, correct. That's correct. Yeah.
My
Because
husband
as soon
went
as
out.
you're asking that question, this ties in actually to a larger thing. Someone said the problem with a lot of the young converts today is that they read these stories about the saints who are floating above the ground in ecstasy and they want to do that. And what
Mhm.
they don't understand is that the saint is not aware that that is what's happening at
Yes,
that time when
exactly.
they're in prayer. The whole problem of asking the question of what category am I in is that all of a sudden you're thinking about yourself and you're deluded and you're not thinking about loving God and loving your neighbor.
And you want to possess something.
Right. Yeah. And you want this certainty.
Yeah. That that's the possession.
Yeah.
My husband just went outside and I hear my new dog just
Oh,
whining. So
great.
let
Okay.
me just go check where he is.
Sure. Tonight, in case I think you saw in the title of this video, we're glad you're here. No one said hi, but we see you're here and we're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. we sometimes take a few minutes to get rolling, giving people a chance to show up. But we are going to be talking tonight about St. Anthony the Great. And if we have some extra time, then I also am going to share the life of St. Athanasius the Great, who is his spiritual son, his spiritual successor. And St. Athanasius is the one who actually wrote the life of St. Anthony. So because of St. Athanasius, we have the record of the life of St. Anthony, which is kind of one of the first lives of a saint that, well, I guess that's not true. We had a lot of the martyr saints, but it is definitely one of the most detailed early accounts of a saint with St. Anthony. So anyway, you didn't hear Shari. I think I'm going to definitely talk about St. Anthony, but if we have time, I'm also going to talk about his spiritual son, St. Athanasius the Great. And St. Athanasius wrote the life of St. Anthony the Great. So,
oh, awesome.
He also wrote, St. Athanasius wrote On the Incarnation.
Yes.
And I have to, I've read a lot of Orthodox books at this point, and I've listened to way too many Orthodox YouTube videos and etc. And I will say that the most helpful and grounding and reorienting Orthodox book that I've read is On the Incarnation by St. Athanasius. Second would be Journey to the Sacred, I think. But anyway, number one is On the Incarnation. It really helped modify my Mormon view of the atonement and incarnation, and which is very similar to Calvinism, to be honest.
I never read it, but there's two really great lectures by Father John Bear. They're older on that book, On the Incarnation. They're called, if you go to On the Incarnation, they'll pop up part 1 and 2, and they're just fantastic. They're so good, Jeremy. That was like really early on in my Orthodox curious world.
I'll share those in the comments. I'll share those links. So that one is part 1, or that one's talk 1, and this one is talk 2.
I can't recommend anything else on YouTube that as highly as those two things. Honestly, they're just amazing.
I haven't listened to those. I've read On the Incarnation probably 3 times now. Yeah. And I will say this. So Father John Bear did his own translation of On the Incarnation. However, if you look around, and they put C.S. Lewis's intro to it, which is kind of weird because C.S. Lewis did not write it about Father John's translation. He wrote it for an earlier translation. He wrote it for an earlier translation that was done in the 40s. Right. And the main difference is, I have the older one and I've read the newer one, and the main difference is Father John does a lot of like humankind and humans instead of mankind and man. So just so you're aware, that's like the biggest difference in how they translate it. Yeah. But it's a fantastic book. And it was written in answer to help dispel the heresy of Arianism.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
So, and in case you don't know what Arianism is, that was people who believed that that Jesus was a creation, basically, that he was a creature, that he was created, that there was a time where Jesus did not exist, and that he, through his perfect obedience, was basically granted godhood,
divinity.
Divinity as a son of God. So it's actually very similar to the Mormon view. The Mormons are essentially Arians.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's logical, which should be your first clue.
Yes. That is the main critique of the Trinity for Mormons, is basically incredulity. They don't really understand. Most of them believe that the Trinity is actually, they think it's modalism, which is that God is basically acting in different modes, And they go, well, look at the theophany where you have God the Father speaking, Jesus Christ is being baptized, and the Holy Spirit is descending like a dove. Clearly, the Trinity is not real. And it's like, well, that's not what the Trinity is not modalism. But they think that's what the Trinity is. And so they go, well, it's obviously crazy, you know?
So they're not, oh, right. They wouldn't be Trinitarian in that case.
Mormons are not Trinitarian.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. They're actually, I think my daughter called it. She was studying the Iliad. She was reading it for school. Mm-hmm. And one day she came to me and said, she was dating a Mormon boy at the time. And she said, I think the Mormons are pagans. Because like if you look at the pagan gods, they knew they were men, and but they were just very powerful men. They were just very powerful, big men who had lived regular lives and fought in wars, but then progressed and became powerful. Divinity. And that's essentially what the Mormon view is. Right? So.
Kind of like our, the very simplistic Christian view of when you die, you get your wings and a harp.
Yeah.
It's the same.
I have to say, I watched It's a Wonderful Life this Christmas, and honestly, that was the first time I've ever watched that movie all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. And
I love that movie.
It was beautiful. I will say that the main character, played by James Stewart, I don't remember his name in the film. He has Mr. Nice Guy syndrome, probably more like that is the best portrayal of nice guy syndrome that I've ever seen in film or in literature.
Yeah.
It's because he's like constantly sacrificing what he wants to do in himself for the greater good, for what's best for everybody else.
Yeah.
He's like people pleasing. And then but he's bitter. It's not like genuine. He's bitter about it. And it comes out like when he loses his shit toward the end of the movie. That's his true nature coming out, because he's been resentful for his whole life. And then this one person loses, and instead of extending the grace to his relative who's been helping him his whole life, he like gets really upset. Now he doesn't say it, but he's taking it out on everyone else. It's like classic nice guy syndrome. But then he goes through the transformation, and then other people, basically it's almost like the nice guy syndrome fantasy of everyone finally saw all my sacrifices and now they're all giving back to me.
But here's the deal though, Jeremy. I mean, yes, but
I know I'm being a little cynical. I mean, this is a little tongue in cheek.
That is a bit cynical, because honestly, he takes it right to the max and decides to kill himself so his family can have his life insurance policy.
Yes. Yep.
He thinks the world would be better without him.
Yes. Toward the end. Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the story.
Yes. Yeah.
And the world won't be better without you, because
right.
Like, this is, to me, the whole, I wish I was never born. This is what Job says.
Yes.
It's a really interesting thing to think about, because, well, that in itself isn't really suicidal. He says that afterwards. He says that after his suicide attempt. I wish I'd never been born, right? Because there's no, life scoops you up and it catches you up in this flow and you're caught in the current, right?
Thrownness, as the Heidegger guys would say.
Yeah. Or the Tao.
Yeah.
Even, yeah. Right. And so, and I'm just remembering another dream I had.
Oh, we will get to the lives of the saints, ladies and gentlemen.
Which featured
we meander our way there sometimes.
Yeah, we're getting there. No, which featured two angels, and I never thought of it in this term before, or like, because I just said we get caught up in this flow, right?
Yes.
And in my dream, so I remember the question I was asking when I had this dream. I was asking the question, what do I do now That was my question to God,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, I'd come to a realization about some things and in my life, and I knew that I had to do things differently, but I didn't know what.
Yeah.
Anyway, I dreamt that I was in a crowd that were walking down a street, and they filled up the street, and it was shoulder to shoulder like sardines, and we were just pushing along, you know, and literally nobody could go in any other direction. It was just everyone was going in the same direction. And there were these thugs who I just knew that, you know, they were demons, like they were the demonic or whatever. And they were standing there in these store alcoves, you know, along this, it was like a main street. And they were watching all these people, and they just were scanning, right? Make sure there were no anomalies. And I heard, Shari, you know, and I look, and there's these two angels standing in this store alcove, and they go, come here. And I'm like, oh, great. So I'm shoving and pushing my way, you know, through this crowd. And I get up and I go, what? Because I've already risked something by not being in the flow, you know? Right. And they said, you have to walk the other way. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I said to them, yeah, but then those guys are going to see me. And they said, we know. And then you know what they said? We'll do what we can to help you out. And I was like, okay. And so I went back in, and I've turned the other way, and it wasn't just the fear of these guys, but it was literally the effort, because this crowd was so thick and so tight.
Yeah.
To go the other way was almost impossible. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw them notice me. And then I woke up from the dream.
Interesting.
That dream was, and I was like, okay, that's what I said when I woke up from the dream. Okay. Got the memo.
Okay. That's what we'll do, I guess.
I guess. I don't know how successful I was, but or happened. But yeah. Anyway, I guess we should get to somebody who did walk the other way, Jeremy.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the life of St. Anthony. This is a bit of a personal story. Well, I'll just say, very early on in my path of orthodoxy, his life was one of the very first I read. The first Orthodox book I ever read was Confessions by St. Augustine.
Oh.
All my Roman Catholic friends are going, hey.
And Protestant
friends, yeah, they're like, hey, and I was like, yes, okay, but and then the second book I read was Christ the Eternal Tao, but early on I was exposed to the life of St. Anthony. I read it, and I was just so moved. And before we start with him, well, let's say a prayer, and then I'll share a painting that was done of St. Anthony the Great by Michelangelo. And it's one of my favorite paintings ever. Wow. But let me read a prayer. Let me say a prayer first. Illumine our hearts, O Master, who lovest mankind with the pure light of thy divine knowledge. Open the eyes of our mind to the understanding of thy gospel teachings. Implant also in us the fear of thy blessed commandments, the trampling down all carnal desires, we may enter upon a spiritual manner of living, both thinking and doing such things as are well-pleasing unto thee. For thou art the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God. And unto thee we ascribe glory, together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and thine all holy good and life-creating Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
So let me pull up this picture. Of course, I didn't have it pre-grabbed, but it will just take a second, because I think it really sets the stage for what we're about to hear. Let me pull up a big one. There we go. Open this on a new tab. Oh, it lied. It wasn't
big enough.
It said it was bigger than it was. There we go. Let's try this one. Nope. Lies. This one? Oh, there we go. We found one. Okay. And I will share. Yes, we've been doing this for like 2 years now, and I'm still terrible at being a host, but here we are. Okay, so
Oh my goodness.
let me there we go.
Wow.
I can see the whole thing. Yeah. So this is St. Anthony in prayer. It's called The Torment of St. Anthony the Great is the name of this painting.
That is amazing. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
I didn't even know it existed.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, actually, I guess I can leave that up and I'll just read his life separately. Hold on. We'll do that. We'll do it that way this time. It'll be fun.
Okay.
Because you can ponder this image because it's too good.
Yeah.
Venerable and God-bearing Father, St. Anthony the Great. His name day is January 17th, by the way. So this weekend.
That's my mother-in-law. That's my mother-in-law's birthday. She's going to be 95.
Whoa. Yeah, that's Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Wow. St. Anthony the Great is known as the father of monasticism, and the long ascetical sermon in the life of St. Anthony by St. Athanasius could be called the first monastic rule. He was born in Egypt in the village of Coma, near the desert of the Thebaid, in the year 251. His parents were pious Christians of illustrious lineage. Anthony was a serious child and was respectful and obedient to his parents. He loved to attend church services, and he listened to the Holy Scriptures so attentively that he remembered what he heard all his life. When St. Anthony was about 20 years old, he lost his parents, but he was responsible for the care of his younger sister. Going to church about 6 months later, the youth reflected on how the faithful in the Acts of the Apostles sold their possessions and gave the proceeds to the apostles for the needy. Then he entered the church and heard the gospel passage where Christ speaks to the rich young man. If you would, quote, if you would be perfect, go, sell what you possess and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. Anthony felt that these words applied to him. Therefore, he sold the property that he received after the death of his parents, then distributed the money to the poor, and left his sister in the care of pious virgins in a convent. Leaving his parental home, St. Anthony began his ascetical life in a hut not far from his village. By working with his hands, he was able to earn his livelihood and also alms for the poor. Sometimes the holy youth also visited other ascetics living in the area, and from each he sought direction and benefit. He turned to one particular ascetic for guidance in the spiritual life. In this period of his life, St. Anthony endured terrible temptations from the devil. The enemy of the race of man troubled the young ascetic with thoughts of his former life, doubts about his chosen path, concern for his sister, and he tempted Anthony with lewd thoughts and carnal feelings. But the saint extinguished that fire by meditating on Christ and by thinking of eternal punishment, thereby overcoming the devil. Realizing that the devil would undoubtedly attack him in another manner, St. Anthony prayed and intensified his efforts. Anthony prayed that the Lord would show him the path of salvation, and he was granted a vision. The ascetic beheld a man who by turns alternately finished a prayer, then began to work. This was an angel which the Lord had sent to instruct his chosen one. St. Anthony tried to accustom himself to a stricter way of life. He partook of food only after sunset. He spent all night praying until dawn. Soon he slept only every third day. But the devil would not cease his tricks, and trying to scare the monk, he appeared under the guise of monstrous phantoms. The saint, however, protected himself with the life-creating cross. Finally, the enemy appeared to him in the guise of a frightful-looking small dark figure, and hypocritically declaring himself beaten, he thought he could tempt the saint into vanity and pride. The saint, however, vanquished the enemy with prayer. For even greater solitude, St. Anthony moved farther away from the village into a graveyard. He asked a friend to bring him a little bread on designated days, then shut himself in a tomb. Then the devils pounced upon the saint, intending to kill him, and inflicted terrible wounds upon him. By the providence of the Lord, Anthony's friend arrived the next day to bring him his food. Seeing him lying on the ground as if dead, he took him back to the village. They thought that the saint was dead and prepared for his burial. At midnight, St. Anthony regained consciousness and told his friend to carry him back to the tombs. St. Anthony's staunchness was greater than the wiles of the enemy. Taking the form of ferocious beasts, the devils tried to force the saint to leave that place, but he defeated them by trusting in the Lord. Looking up, the saint saw the roof opening, as it were, and a ray of light coming down toward him. The demons disappeared, and he cried out, "Where have you been, O merciful Jesus? Why didn't you appear from the very beginning to end my pain?" The Lord replied, "I was here, Anthony, but wanted to see your struggle. Now, since you have not yielded, I shall always help you and make your name known throughout all the world." After this vision, St. Anthony was healed of his wounds and felt stronger than before. He was then 35 years of age. Having gained spiritual experience in his struggle with the devil, St. Anthony considered going into the Thebaid desert to serve the Lord. He asked the elder to whom he had turned for guidance at the beginning of his monastic journey to go into the desert with him. The elder, while blessing him in the then as yet unheard of exploit of being a hermit, decided not to accompany him because of his age. St. Anthony went into the desert alone. The devil tried to hinder him by placing a large silver disc in his path, then gold, but the saint ignored it and passed by. He found an abandoned fort on the other side of the river and settled there, barricading the entrance with stones. His faithful friend brought him bread twice a year, and there was water inside the fort. St. Anthony spent 20 years in complete isolation and constant struggle with the demons, and he finally achieved perfect calm. The saint's friends removed the stones from the entrance, and they went to St. Anthony and besought him to take them under his guidance. Soon St. Anthony's cell was surrounded by several monasteries, and the saint acted as a father and guide to their inhabitants, giving spiritual instruction to all who came into the desert seeking salvation. He increased the zeal of those who were already monks and inspired others with a love for the ascetical life. He told them to strive to please the Lord and not to become faint-hearted in their labors. He also urged them not to fear demonic assaults, but to repel the enemy by the power of the life-creating cross of the Lord. In the year 311, there was a fierce persecution against Christians in the reign of the Emperor Maximian. Wishing to suffer with the holy martyrs, St. Anthony left the desert and went to Alexandria. He openly ministered to those in prison. He was present at the trial and interrogations of the confessors and accompanying the martyrs to the place of execution. It pleased the Lord to preserve him, however, for the benefit of Christians. At the close of the persecution, the saint returned to the desert and continued his exploits. The Lord granted the saint the gift of wonder-working, casting out demons and healing the sick by the power of his prayer. The great crowds of people coming to him disrupted his solitude, and he went off still farther into the inner desert, where he settled atop a high elevation. But the brethren of the monastery sought him out and asked him to visit their communities. Another time, St. Anthony left the desert and arrived in Alexandria to defend the Orthodox faith against the Manichaean and Arian heresies. Knowing that the name of St. Anthony was venerated by all the church, the Arians said that he adhered to their heretical teaching. But St. Anthony publicly denounced Arianism in front of everyone and in the presence of the bishop. During his brief stay at Alexandria, he converted a great multitude of pagans to Christ. From all walks of life loved the saint and sought people from all walks of life loved the saint and sought his advice. Pagan philosophers once came to Abba Anthony, intending to mock him for his lack of education, but by his words he reduced them to silence. Emperor Constantine the Great and his sons wrote to St. Anthony and asked him for a reply. He praised the emperor for his belief in Christ and advised him to remember the future judgment and to know that Christ is the true king. St. Anthony spent 85 years in the solitary desert. Shortly before his death, he told the brethren that soon he would be taken from them. He instructed them to preserve the Orthodox faith and its purity, to avoid any association with heretics, and not to be negligent in their monastic struggles. Strive to be united first with the Lord and then with the saints, so that after death they may receive you as familiar friends into the everlasting dwellings. The saint instructed 2 of his disciples who had attended him in the final 15 years of his life to bury him in the desert and not in Alexandria. He left one of his monastic mantles to Saint Athanasius of Alexandria and the other to Saint Serapion of Muius. Saint Anthony died peacefully in the year 356 at age 105, and he was buried in the desert by his disciples. The life of the famed ascetic Saint Anthony the Great was written by Saint Athanasius of Alexandria. This is the first biography of a saint who was not a martyr, and is considered to be one of the finest of Saint Athanasius' writings. Saint John Chrysostom recommends that this life be read by every Christian. These things are insignificant compared with Anthony's virtues, writes Saint Athanasius, but judge from them what the man of God Anthony was like. From his youth until his old age, he kept his zeal for asceticism. He did not give in to the desire for costly foods because of his age, nor did he alter his clothing because of the infirmity of his body. He did not even wash his feet with water. He remained very healthy, and he could see well because his eyes were sound and undimmed. Not one of his teeth fell out, but near the gums they had become worn due to his advanced age. He remained strong in his hands and feet. He was spoken of everywhere, and he was admired by everyone, and was sought even by those who had not seen him, which is evidence of his virtue and of a soul dear to God. The following works of St. Anthony have come down to us: 20 sermons on the virtues, primarily monastic, and that's probably not written by him. 7 letters to various Egyptian monasteries concerning moral perfection and the monastic life as a spiritual struggle. A rule for monastics. And in the year 544, the relics of St. Anthony the Great were transferred to Alexandria. And after the conquest of Egypt by the Saracens in the 7th century, they were transferred to Constantinople. The holy relics were transferred from Constantinople in the 10th, 11th centuries to a diocese outside Vienna. In the 15th century, they were brought to Arles in France to the Church of St. Julian. Powerful, powerful, powerful.
Yeah, I didn't realize he lived so long. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So may we have the intercessions of St. Anthony the Great.
Yeah.
His name day is Saturday. And then, so St. Athanasius, he's one of those that have 2 name days. He has a name day in conjunction with another saint because they both were considered defenders of the faith.
Mm-hmm.
So this Sunday is like the commemoration of his death, but it's the commemoration of his defense of the faith.
Okay.
But I thought because of his connection with Saint Athanasius that it would be, with Saint Anthony, that it would be great.
So Saint Athanasius's name day, one of his feast days is Sunday?
Yeah. So let me pull it up so I can speak more accurately. Make sure I'm not telling stories.
Matthew says, me and my fiance are enjoying you all and the stories.
What? What?
Yeah.
I didn't know this news. Glory to God. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations, sir. Don't screw it up. I hope you asked her father first. I hope you were traditional a little bit. Anyway, it's a little late for kudos.
Beautiful photo on the Grail Country Discord if you're interested.
Oh, I'll check it out. Wow, congrats. I'm so happy. Man, that makes me happy.
It's fantastic.
That's good.
Congratulations to both of you.
Yes, congratulations.
Oh, he did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Proud of you, Parlato. You didn't let me down. You didn't let the old man down, even though I was kind of a weirdo when we were in Northwest together. I had a great time, though. That was really fun. Parlato was my roommate at the Northwest area, and we had a great time. He was very gracious and hospitable. He's a good Southern boy. So anyway, so let me pull this up. Oh, this would be a better way to get to it because my priest actually linked to it. I'll use his email. 1 second. I'm still getting there.
You're the best, Jeremy. See? You're the best.
Oh, no, I learned it by watching you, Parlato. We had a great time. Almost there. I thought it was in here that I saw that. It wasn't in that email. Hold on. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is the part you guys came for, watching me frantically mousing around.
The tension is building.
I know. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom.
The suspense is
no, that's not it. Oh yeah, this is it. Hold on. I think this is it. No. Yep, this is it. Okay. So this, I'll share this first, because this commemoration is this weekend. It's on Sunday. So St. Athanasius the Great, Archbishop of Alexandria. Saints Athanasius and Cyril were archbishops of Alexandria. These wise teachers of truth and defenders of Christ's church share a joint feast in recognition of their dogmatic writings, which affirm the truth of the Orthodox faith, correctly interpret the Holy Scripture, and censure the delusions of the heretics. So their writings are basically what were the main arguments put forth against Arianism at the First Ecumenical Council. St. Athanasius took part in the First Ecumenical Council when he was still a deacon. He surpassed everyone there in his zeal to uphold the teaching that Christ is consubstantial, or homoousios, with the Father, and not merely a creature, as the Arians proclaimed. This radiant beacon of orthodoxy spent most of his life in exile from his see because of the plotting of his enemies, meaning from his office. Yeah. He returned to his flock as he was approaching the end of his life. Like an evening star, he illumined the Orthodox faithful with his words for a little while, then reposed in 373. He is also commemorated on May 2nd, which is the transfer of his holy relics. And that is that in this particular website, that is the account that's longer. And so I'll share that as well.
And so he was a disciple of St. Anthony?
Yes, he was a disciple of St. Anthony, yeah. And they were very close. And St. Athanasius was the one who wrote his life.
Right.
So St. Athanasius the Great, Patriarch of Alexandria. This is why Anthony would come to Alexandria sometimes.
Right.
To visit. St. Athanasius the Great, Archbishop of Alexandria, was a great father of the church and a pillar of orthodoxy. He was born around the year 297 in the city of Alexandria into a family of pious Christians. He received a fine secular education, but he acquired more knowledge by diligent study of the Holy Scripture. In his childhood, the future hierarch Athanasius became known to St. Alexander, the Patriarch of Alexandria. A group of children, which included Athanasius, were playing at the seashore. The Christian children decided to baptize their pagan playmates. The young Athanasius, whom the children designated as bishop, performed the baptism, precisely repeating the words he heard in church during this sacrament. Patriarch Alexander observed all this from a window. He then commanded that the children and their parents be brought to him. He conversed with them for a long while and determined that the baptism performed by the children was done according to the church order. He acknowledged the baptism as real and sealed it with the sacrament of chrismation. From this moment, the patriarch looked after the spiritual upbringing of Athanasius, and in time brought him into the clergy, first as a reader, and then he ordained him as a deacon. It was as a deacon that St. Athanasius accompanied Patriarch Alexander to the First Ecumenical Council at Nicaea in the year 325. At the council, St. Athanasius refuted the heresy of Arius. His speech met with the approval of the Orthodox fathers of the council, but the Arians, those openly and those secretly so, came to hate Athanasius and persecuted him for the rest of his life. After the death of Holy Patriarch Alexander, St. Athanasius was unanimously chosen as his successor in the see of Alexandria. He refused, accounting himself unworthy, but at the insistence of all the Orthodox populace that it was in agreement, He was consecrated bishop when he was 28 and installed as the archpastor of the Alexandrian church. That's extremely young, by the way, in case you didn't already know that. That's like crazy. St. Athanasius guided the church for 47 years, and during this time he endured persecution and grief from his antagonists. Several times he was expelled from Alexandria and hid himself from the Arians in desolate places, since they repeatedly tried to kill him. St. Athanasius spent more than 20 years in exile, returned to his flock, and then was banished again. There was a time when he remained as the only Orthodox bishop in the area, a moment when all the other bishops had fallen into heresy. At the false councils of Arian bishops, he was deposed as bishop. Despite being persecuted for many years, the saint continued to defend the purity of the Orthodox faith, and he wrote countless letters and tracts against the Arian heresy. When Julian the Apostate began a persecution against Christians, his wrath first fell upon St. Athanasius, whom he considered a great pillar of orthodoxy. Julian intended to kill the saint in order to strike Christianity a grievous blow, but he soon perished himself. Mortally wounded by an arrow during a battle, he cried out with despair, "You have conquered, O Galilean." After Julian's death, St. Athanasius guided the Alexandrian church for 7 years and died in 373 at the age of 76. Numerous works of St. Athanasius have been preserved, 4 orations against the Arian heresy, also an epistle to Epictetus, bishop of the Church of Corinth, on the divine and human natures in Jesus Christ, 4 epistles to Serapion, bishop of Thymuis, about the Holy Spirit and his equality with the Father and the Son, directed against the heresy of Macedonius. Other apologetic works of the saint in defense of orthodoxy have been preserved, among which is the letter to the Emperor Constantius. St. Athanasius wrote commentaries on Holy Scripture and books of a moral and didactic character, as well as a biography of St. Anthony the Great, with whom St. Athanasius was very close. St. John Chrysostom advised every Orthodox Christian to read this life. The memory of St. Athanasius is celebrated also on January 18th with St. Cyril of Alexandria.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's pull up. I did show a cool painting of St. Anthony, but I didn't share an icon.
Yeah.
So let me do that. And then we'll share one of St. Athanasius as well. So this is St. Anthony the Great. And if you have not read his life, I would highly recommend it. It's very moving and very inspiring. He was almost an otherworldly man. Well, like it said in the story, his friend would bring him bread once every 6 months. And the rest of the time he was bricked up in a tomb.
Yeah. Praying.
So there's St. Anthony, and now I'll pull up a St. Athanasius. Big fan of this icon. You'll see why shortly. Is that not a great beard?
It is a great beard.
Just saying.
Lots of natural wave going on.
Yeah, wave, natural curl going on. No, I love it. Yeah. So that's St. Athanasius.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay, that's all I prepared. That's all I got.
Awesome. That was
we have
great.
The intercession of the saints.
Yes. I am going to drop a link in case anybody wants to join us.
Would love it.
Yeah. We used to have people joining us, and now nobody dares jump in. So
I know I don't know why some people say, well, we just like you guys talking, but
we just keep talking about.
Yeah, I know. We just
whatever.
Yep.
Hoping someone will, break the monotony of our
Should we be more controversial? Should we be like try to be triggering so people want to jump in and like,
Maybe
correct
we
us?
should.
Or I don't know.
There's lots we could say to get that going. So much going on right now. It's insane.
Woo. Yeah, in both of our countries. I heard about Alberta.
Oh, that's the least of my worries at the moment.
I know, doing the independence thing. That'll be interesting.
Our prime minister just went to China.
Oh, there you go. Checking in, getting new orders.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to break our dependence on the United States.
Well, we've got the Prime Minister of Israel here every other week, so we have our own share of being a vassal state. Ooh.
Oh, man. Yeah, anyway, let's not do that. Let's not go there.
No. Yeah. No.
I have to say this. Michael Martin made a really cool video this morning. He said it was the planets are going crazy, he said, right now.
Yeah.
And he, I don't know anything about that really, but he talked about, where different planets are. And he said, it's the time of the bankers is coming to an end. And I was like, oh, are we going to have an election?
Yeah. No, I think that's why it's going to come to an end.
He's a literal banker. Mark Carney is a banker.
Yeah. Well,
that's what he is.
I think what's going to happen. So my prediction is pretty radical and absurd, but I think that America as a republic is coming to an end, and that we're at the dawn of America as an empire, and that we're going to move from the Senate and, to the emperor, to Augustus Caesar, right? So
did you ever see, it was way back when Trump was first elected, there was a parade in Italy or something, and they had this
in Japan.
Was that Japan?
Yeah.
And a giant, a whole, like Caesar of Trump.
Yeah. There's a whole. Well, check it out. Let me share. There's a whole meme of God Emperor Trump.
Was that like prophetic?
Yeah. This is in.
There it is.
Yeah. And then it really took on a life of its own after that.
Yeah.
There was also God Emperor Trump has been around since 2015.
Yeah.
But whoops, there was some swearing on there. Sorry. Anyway, it's kind of wild stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was a Buddhist
Have we triggered anybody yet? Anybody want to jump on it? Let's come on. Yeah. If you feel triggered, jump in.
Yeah, did you see this too? There was someone carved a Buddhist statue. This is from China. China. Yeah, they made a.
Never seen anything like it before.
Wild stuff. Anyway. Yeah, it's a great statue. Very great statue. It's the best statue. I walked in here. I was like, wow, what a statue. No. So
crazy times. Crazy.
Yeah, it really is crazy times.
Konstantin Kisin did a little monologue yesterday or something. And he said, welcome to the multipolar world.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. He doesn't think it's a good thing.
Well,
and he has some good arguments for it, but
good arguments for that it's a multipolar world.
Well, he argues. Well, he lays out what his observations are to indicate we're in a multipolar world.
Yeah.
Then he personally doesn't think having a multipolar world is a good idea. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that. I haven't got that bent in me to be. Like I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like. Yeah, I don't.
You've got sheep to take care of, right?
It's I was thinking about it today, and this little thought flickered through my mind. I thought, I think I'm going to start saying this more often. The world's going to world.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right?
This is the argument my wife makes. She's just like, listen, every generation since Christ has thought they were the last generation because they couldn't believe how evil the world was. Mm-hmm. She's like, we're no different. It's like, it's not special. Like, get over it. Like she tells me that all the time. She says it jokingly, like she's saying it to someone else, but she's really saying it to me. She's just like, guys, it's been evil. You get older, you learn more things about the world. You learn that evil exists. You learn that the depravity of evil. You learn the depth of that depravity, and you think that you're scandalized because you think that it wasn't like this in the past. But this happens to every generation as they get older.
Yeah, and I mean, this generation is watching it while they eat popcorn.
Right. Right.
I mean, there were generations that were starving to death and waiting for it to arrive on their doorstep.
Right. Well, so in 1492, that was actually like, that was a significant date in the Julian calendar. It was either the 5500 or year, it was like year 5500 or year 5000, year 6000, something like that. But it was specifically 1492, which is crazy. But basically, they all thought this is it. And so like farmers quit planting, everybody just kind of stopped, and they all started moving to monasteries and like living around the monasteries because they thought that Christ was coming.
Did you ever listen to that Dan Carlin's hardcore history of the Münster rebellion?
No.
Oh gosh. I think I sent it to you.
I think you did, but I didn't send it to me. I didn't listen to it.
4 hours or 6 hours. I don't know. It's really long, but it's kind of like an audiobook, the way he tells the story. It's so insanely interesting. I listened to it, over a few days, right?
Yeah.
But that's what happened there too. Like these Anabaptists figured, I mean, they had several prophecies for the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was supposed to happen in this city, and then it didn't happen. And so then it was shoved forward, and then it was going to happen in another city, and it didn't happen. And finally it got pushed to Münster in Germany, the end of the world. And they took over the whole city. And what's so fascinating about that story is that they, as Anabaptists, they were anarchists. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a political hierarchy, but there was also an aristocracy in Europe. Right. And at that, like the prince of the city, he got shoved out. So, everybody had to, and then if you weren't converted to the Anabaptist faith, then you started to be suspect. So those people started leaving, just kind of their own accord. Mm-hmm. And they became communists. Like they shared everything, right? All the wealth was gathered up, and, and it was all like, hallelujah, praise the Lord, and all this stuff. And then by the end of the story, the main character is a prince, and he has an entourage of, also aristocracy, right? That follow him around. They're hoarding all the wealth of the city. They're killing people willy-nilly. Like, and this is like within a year and a half. This is not over decades or centuries.
Right. Yeah. Everything just hit. Yeah.
And then they're getting starved because the prince finally puts a siege on the city, so they can't get out, and nothing can get in, and so they're starving. And I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, but anyway, they were putting women and children outside the walls, and they were getting shot with arrows and whatever. Like it was just like. It was just so, and it became exactly what they disposed of, or what they displaced.
The same thing happened in the French Revolution. Same thing.
And they became polygamists.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it was all because they gathered to wait for the apocalypse. And essentially they created it. It was the end of the world for them.
Yeah. Yes. True. Yeah.
Just, I mean, if you want to go for a wild, like really wild ride, listen to that thing. It's insane. There's actually a YouTube video that's behind a paywall, the Dan Carlin one.
Yeah. It's a $3 paywall, so.
Okay. But there is one on the internet, on YouTube, that for some reason it's not monetized, it says, and Dan Carlin has let it be there. And after I listened to it, I'm like, yeah, everyone should be listening to this.
Oh, there we go. I found it. Yeah.
Good.
Well, I did start listening to it. I made it 20 minutes in, but then I got probably pulled into something else at work. Forgot to get back to it.
Jeremy, that story it's kind of like when you think things couldn't get any worse, they do. That's what happens in this story. It just keeps going and going. And I think I said to you that, it's a real study in human psychology, man.
Yeah.
I think somebody was saying something about in Luke's live stream. I was watching Luke's live stream for a short period this morning before I had to go to town. And someone said I don't remember who, but somebody said something about not being political or something, or, as if you can talk about culture without talking about politics, which I think is just crazy, because here's the deal. Some famous person said this. I don't know who it is, but politics is downstream of culture. Okay.
Right.
But I just typed into the the chat, the live chat. Bees make honeycombs, and society makes politics. That's how they organize themselves. Okay. Right. So when like a beehive is completely useless unless it's organized itself.
Right.
Right. We have a place for this and we have a place for that. They've got bureaucracy. They got little, slots where they put their future members, and then everyone gets a job around that, right. To sustain the whole colony. And that's what politics is. It's a honeycomb, the way I see it.
Yeah, I also see it as a protection racket, but that's
another
role,
right? I mean, at least in the natural world, these things don't get corrupted, unless, of course, some foreign object lands and takes it over, like a fungus or a mold or a robber bees, or, they have their own enemies.
Another colony. They
have their own enemies. But everything has to organize itself into some kind of hierarchy in order to survive. It's just, I mean, even these Anabaptists.
Yeah. Well, I will say I caught. Yeah. Yeah, there's still I mean, obviously the prince ends up with everything. So when everyone is a pacifist, the bully wins. Right? That's how it works. But what I was going to say is I also caught the stream. Just as you were getting on, I had to leave on Luke's stream, and he was sharing the spiral dynamic stuff, and I was just like,
oh, I didn't see that part.
It was like level 7 or something is egalitarianism and community, basically communal thinking. Like, I can't think of the other word, but anyway, it didn't say communism, but it was basically communism. And I was just like, I just said, this is Freemasonic bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, why are you so attached to this? Like, how do you think egalitarianism is advanced? Like, have you ever been in a group of 10 people? Like, have you ever been on a vacation? Try running a vacation with a group of people in an egalitarian way.
Yeah.
You won't do anything. You'll constantly stand there and go like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. Well, let's go here. Well, I don't really want to go there. Okay, well, let's go here. No, I don't really want to do that. It's kind of far. That's egalitarian vacation. Guess what happens? Nothing. You all stand there and your feet get sore, you get bored, and then you start wandering off. I mean, it just,
I actually,
I don't have a lot of patience for that. It's related to what you're talking about with politics.
it is totally, yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't see that part of the live stream, but I don't know, at some point today, for some reason, I was thinking about, it was when I was doing my chores. Maybe somebody said something in the live stream that prompted me to think about it. And I do my best thinking when I'm shoveling shit.
Yeah. That's
seriously.
totally accurate. No, that's backed up by cognitive science. That's true.
Okay. Perfect.
It's mundane, repetitive tasks.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually also the best therapy for PTSD.
Mm. Well, so, anyway. I was thinking when Jesus was, actively in his ministry and even like setting it up, he said, "Follow me."
Yeah.
Right. Follow me.
Right.
A lot of people will go to the Last Supper and say, yeah, but he washed their feet. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't wash their feet till the Last Supper.
Right. Right.
Like it actually didn't dawn on me until I was like, wait a minute, that was the last time they were together.
Yeah.
And so that's when he condescended, right? And in the best way possible, to show that his leadership was in service to them.
Right.
But it wasn't egalitarian.
No.
Because they followed him.
And no one washed Jesus' feet, which they would have if it was egalitarian. I'm just saying at the Last Supper.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So his leadership, and I'm sure anybody in the military would understand that concept.
Right.
That, the captain or the general or whoever, the major, whoever's in charge is in service, or should be, right? He has to be thinking about his men.
Yeah.
How best do I do this thing, this task that we all have set before us for these men who are following me?
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and David and Jonathan, another great story, like another great example, right? Like when they were fighting and David was like,
how about Moses and the children of Israel?
Yeah, there you go. It's another one. Right. Yeah. Well, so I'll just for context, I'll share the picture really quick. I'll share this Masonic monstrosity, but not for very long. I don't want it to be imprinted on your impressionable noose. Yeah, so it was in here, so like you're starting down here, you're progressing in evolution, like it's just all like, progress. It's just all that nonsense. And anyway, communitarian, and I want to say this. I really like Luke, okay? I met him in Northwest Jerry. I don't have a problem with Luke. I have a problem with this philosophy. That's what I'm taking issue with. I'm not taking issue with Luke. I want to be clear. But this philosophy is garbage. Green, communitarian, egalitarian. This comes from Ken Wilbur. It's like some guy who's like, I don't know, self-deified and who is convinced that he's going to help all of us. And this is his output. As you can see, it's an upside down Christmas tree. And I would rather just have a Christmas tree, personally.
It looks more like a tornado.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Or half like the RNA strand. Because DNA is 2, right? So RNA is just 1. So I don't trust it. Anyway, I think it's kind of silly. And like I said, if you think like it's all upside down and weird, it just doesn't make any sense. It's incoherent, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe it needs a larger explanation. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Here we got Marcus.
Oh, I just X'd it out. We both grabbed it at the same time.
Yeah. Just joining, hoping to go to the St. Anthony Vigil on Friday night.
Cool.
Oh, glory to God.
There's a link there, Marcus, if you have time. I know you're a busy professor now and all that jazz. Marking papers. Must be fun.
He's probably done with that now. It's the beginning of the semester again. Now he gets to start over with a new batch. Or maybe he's just on the second half of his first batch. I don't know.
It's good to have you with us, Marcus.
Yes, we're glad you're here. We're glad everyone who's here with us. We're glad you're here. This is
Marcus is like, he's he's the monastic economist.
He's the first one.
He's got a special gift that needs sharing with the world, in my opinion. And it's great. So St. Anthony must mean a lot to you, Marcus, I think, since he's the father of that tradition.
Yes.
I think I read somewhere that, I don't know where he was living. It gave me the impression, the story that I read, that he was on a mountain or something. And, after many years and his fame grew, people would gather and want to meet him, right? Want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't just come out. He would, stay in there forever. And then maybe after like 6 or 7 months, he'd poke his head out, kind of whatever, say a few words and then go back.
Yep.
And I remember reading that and thinking, how wise is that? Because I would thought of it, actually. I don't remember the saint, Jeremy, but it was a story that we did a long time ago about and I think he was an older man, and did he go to St. Anthony, or he went to some saint in the desert and he wanted to become a monk, and
this was St. Paul the Simple.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, one of my godsons, it's his patron saint.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So we talked about his life earlier. We shared his life. Right,
and he just sat there, kind of like, well, I'm not leaving,
Yep. Yeah, well, because he was in his 60s, and he came home and his wife was having an affair, and he was just like, "Oh, good, you could take care of her. Bye," and he left and went to St. Anthony's cave and said, "I want to be a monk." And St. Anthony's like, "You're too old."
Yeah,
and he's like, I can't take care of you. I'm old. I don't want to take care of you. And so then the guy stood outside, and he was out. St. Anthony left him out there for 3 days.
And then gave him tons of horribly menial tasks.
Yeah. Well, and then he brought him in. The very first thing he did was he's like, "Okay, you can come and eat with me." And he came in, and there was food. He had bread. And then St. Anthony just started praying and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And he's kind of like watching St. Paul. And St. Paul's just standing there. And so he prays, and he finally is like, "Okay, now we can eat." And then St. Anthony puts bread over on St. Paul's plate and didn't take any himself. And St. Paul's like, "I'll eat when you eat." And St. Anthony's like, "Well, it's a little late now. I'll eat tomorrow." And St. Paul said, "Okay." And they went to bed, and then they got up the next morning, and St. Anthony was like, "Well, we could eat." And then St. Paul was like, "Okay." And then St. Anthony's like, "No, we should pray first." He's like, "Okay." So St. Anthony then does another really long prayer session, and finally in his head, he was like, "I'm kind of hungry." he was like, "I'm just going to have half of mine." And so then because he gave St. Paul one, and then he gave himself one. And then he said, "I'm just going to have half." And he ripped it in half and just was going to eat the half. And St. Paul ripped his in half and put the other half in the middle of the table.
Oh, beautiful.
And St. Anthony was like, "Okay, you can hang out." And then eventually it got to the point where St. Paul was given the gift of casting out demons. Somebody brought someone who was possessed to St. Anthony and
he sent them to St.
Paul. Yeah, and he said, "Go talk to St. Paul. I can't help you with this one. St. Paul will."
I know. So, and you got to have that kind of, there's got to be that kind of, I don't know, discernment, because it's a kind of discernment, right? Because there's a lot of people with good intentions, but they're not cut out for the life.
Right.
They're not supposed to be there.
Right.
like literally not supposed to be there.
Right. That's why
And
they
they
have a
have
long process before you become a novice,
Mhm,
and even
mhm.
when you become a novice, there's another long process before you become a
Right,
monk, a tonsured monk. And it is
right.
to make sure that you fit into the community and that you should be there and that you don't want to be anywhere else, or that you shouldn't be anywhere else, basically.
And you're not the goat.
Right. Well, there have been some stories of those kind of monks too, which are pretty funny.
Well, I was thinking that whole process would be really, all the goat in you would come out.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, there was a story of a monk, Saint Paisios told the story of a monk who um, did all kinds of shenanigans. Like, he was constantly pulling practical jokes. He was constantly teasing people. He would move stuff around and hide stuff. And he didn't really fast, and he drank way too much and was drunk a lot of the time and was just a joke. And people had a really hard time with him and really frustrated by him. And he died, and an angel came and had this long scroll of all of the things he had done wrong, all of his sins, right? And it just went as far as he could see. It was long. And the angel said, these are all of your sins. And the monk said, does it say anywhere on that page that I judged anyone? That I judged someone? And the angel said, and as the angel started moving and checking, the whole banner disappeared.
Oh.
And the monk said, Christ promised that if you don't judge anyone, he wouldn't judge. If you don't judge anyone, he won't judge you.
Oh. I love these stories.
Yeah. And then he came back.
Yeah.
And was greatly humbled. And then died not long after, but was able to share the story. So
my cat is puking. Hang on a second.
So Marcus shared, he did say, new semester, getting off the ground running. Nice. Reading Wealth of Nations with students for the 250th anniversary of its publication, which coincides with the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And I'm kind of excited. I have some $2 bills from 1976, which is when the $2 bill was introduced, by the way, if you didn't know that. It was introduced for the bicentennial. And now they're going to be making a 250th anniversary version of the $2 bill, which I don't have one yet, but I need to go to the bank and get one. Pretty excited about that, because this is also my birthday year. Well, this is I was born in 1976, so I am tied to this celebration as well, in a small way, but meaningful to me. So,
what is the Wealth of Nations? I don't even know.
That was written by Adam Smith, and it was basically, okay, now anything more than that I say, Marcus is going to be like,
nope,
not exactly. No, Marcus is very gracious with my lack of education. I did read Wealth of Nations when I was a young man, but I didn't have a lot of experience in understanding it. But it was one of the foundation books of modern economics.
Oh, I see.
Supply and demand. Adam Smith basically was the first one who wrote about supply and demand. Beyond that, I can't remember what makes it distinctive.
I could never imagine anything more boring than economics until I met Marcus.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and then I'm like, that
was a nice turn right there. That was good.
What's going on here? Like, I couldn't believe how interested I was in some of the things he shared with me, and some of his podcasts that I've watched. I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. It talks about the origin and use of money, on wages for labor, supply and demand, the profits of stock, interest rates. So Yeah, of the rent of land. So basically, it was the beginning of the stock market, or early on part of the stock market, and kind of the creation of the stock market, or laid the groundwork for that, the philosophical groundwork for it. But I am sure I need to be corrected by our resident economics professor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's frantically typing a small essay into the chat.
Yeah, right. That's all right. That's fine. I am happy to be corrected by, yeah, I definitely, one of the weaknesses of being a self-educated person is that it's like I have a lot of this depth, and then I have a few subjects where I go and then back up, and then so things don't all tie together very well, especially the stuff I read when I was younger. I think I was maybe dissociated, or maybe like maybe taking too literally, or just not understanding the point, because I read a lot of things when I was young, and I was like, I don't get this, and now I read it, I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Especially literature. Like when I was young, I didn't understand literature at all.
When I was 5, no, wait, 6, I was in grade 1. And the teacher said, the first person who can write a story gets to go to the library. And
so you get a nerd reward for being the first nerd.
Yeah. And I really wanted to go to the library, and it was a tiny little schoolhouse. I actually looked it up a while ago on the internet, and it's literally like it's like 150 years old, this schoolhouse. I didn't realize it at the time, of course.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's an old schoolhouse, and the library was like I remember it. It was like a utility closet, like a big utility closet. It was very big. But anyway, I wrote a story about, I just remember it was about a prince and a princess, of course, and a kiss, something like that. And it maybe was like 6 sentences strung together. And I think I had to ask her how to spell every word. I was just like, I'd go up, how do you spell prince? Go back to the seat. Any of the bigger words I could do, and
right.
And so she took me to the library, and she said, okay, Shari, you can pick out any book you want. And I was like, oh, any book?
Yeah.
And we were not a book family. We didn't I don't remember as a kid having books. My parents didn't read to us, nothing like that. But I loved books, and I loved the smell of books. Like dictionaries were awesome for that. Open a dictionary and they smell so good.
I know. You're talking to a guy who owns a lot of books and a lot of dictionaries. I get it.
Anyway, and so I picked 101 poems by Robert Frost.
I was just reading Robert Frost before the show. Like after dinner, I had like 20 minutes to just relax. And I did. I just sat down with a book of Robert Frost poetry. I love it.
And like I'm telling you this because you read something once, you said when you were younger, and you didn't get it. Right?
Yeah, most things I read when I was younger, I didn't get it. Yeah.
I was like, and I remember sitting, we had a school bus ride home, and I was sitting on the school bus with this book on my lap. And I was so excited.
How old were you? I don't know how. 6, 7? Oh, 6. Okay.
And I don't know. I knew who Robert Frost was, but I don't know why. But this is like Robert Frost. I think he, if I remember correctly, he read some of his poetry at the inauguration of Kennedy or something.
He did. He read Road Less Traveled.
Yeah.
He was the poet laureate for the United States.
And so that was in that era, so I was just, I guess I heard his name or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I read or I tried to read, a few pages. And before my husband and I got married, which is like 39, this is like 40 years ago. I told this story to a friend. And so for my birthday, she bought me The Complete Works of Robert Frost. Because I that was a library book and I had to give it back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, did you ever read any more Robert Frost after that? I was like, no. I never did. But I just remember that reaching up for this, and I remember the teacher going, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking of stopping by woods on a snowy evening. This is a nice winter poem. I'm going to share this one.
Do it. It is the best.
I love this poem.
Yeah.
Stopping by woods on a snowy evening by Robert Frost.
Mm.
Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow.
Mm.
My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Amazing. I got one for you.
Okay.
Favorite. Robert Frost. I did a little Robert Frost course, actually, that was offered for free, and I'm trying to remember through what. It's a cool platform called Future Learn. But somebody offered it. Really good. It was really good. It was, not a in-depth, not like scholarly or anything, but it was just really good. Okay, this is one that I really love this one. You probably know it. Mending Wall.
Oh, now this is okay. I'm interested in talking with you about this afterward.
Okay. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. To each the boulders that have fallen to each, and some are loaves and some so nearly balls, we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side, it comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. Excuse me. He only says good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me. And I wonder, I'm supposed to read this poem, I think. And I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, Good fences make good neighbors. That is amazing, that poem.
Yeah, but I'm on the side of the neighbor. I'm just going to say that.
I don't think Frost isn't either. He's just poking to see if the guy can see himself, because there's a moment in that poem where Frost sees the neighbor for who he is and why the wall is being built. It's when he sees him as a savage with those 2 stones in his hands.
Well,
at least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, the way I feel it is that I think it's just Robert Frost being judgmental because he doesn't agree.
Yeah.
Because he's saying the wall is pointless because I have apple trees, you have pine trees, we don't have cows. Why do we have the wall? And he's like accusing this guy of being simplistic just because one, he's not explaining himself. He feels no need to explain himself. He just says good walls make good neighbors. And Robert Frost has no refutation for it, but doesn't agree because he thinks the guy's a troglodyte. He thinks he's a caveman. And I think it's, I don't know. To me, this comes off as like an academic who lives on a farm judging farm people because he doesn't understand them.
No, wrong.
Well, refute my case. Like make a case for what you're saying.
I'll make you a case for Robert Frost. First of all, he himself was a curmudgeon.
Okay.
And pretty much, I think that this is a self-analysis too, which a lot of poets are doing when they're doing this, right? They see it's the neighbor mirrors them to them. Okay. So there's always that, to me at least, playing in a poem, there's always that aspect to it. And what I think he's talking about is that nature itself doesn't love a wall, right? Like he says, the frozen groundswell, knocks it down, right? So there's this bigger force underneath everything that wants to break down the wall. But the men have to build it. Right. Because if they didn't put the stones on the wall, they would use them to kill each other. That's what I get from this poem. And so when
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so what he is doing when he inquires to the neighbor, right? What do you think we need a wall for? Right? He's looking for a reason not to have a wall, and there isn't one. Because he sees what they would do to each other, and that includes himself, right? He sees that because it's a mirroring thing. He sees that human being with that capacity. And the other thing is he stays on his side and the neighbor stays on his side the whole time.
Right.
So they're both building it together.
Yeah.
But it's like an inquiry. What do you think? Could we knock this wall down? Right. And I don't see that. I don't see Frost saying we need to get rid of all the walls.
See, I see him judging his neighbor because he says his neighbor he's not willing to go behind the phrase. He's just thinks well of himself for repeating it,
Yeah. Which is often the case.
But I don't think that's true. That we don't know if that's true. We don't know if the guy hasn't thought about it. Maybe he thought about it a lot and he realized the wisdom in it and he doesn't need to explain himself.
Right. But the whole exercise is a not thought through exercise. They're just doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me see if I can put this in.
Yeah, better. but the neighbors thought about it because he has an answer. He has an answer.
Yeah, but the answer
Robert Frost doesn't have an answer.
The answer comes from the wisdom of the ancestor, right? So, like he says, he will not go. Right. And so I always keep in mind that what this ends up doing for the poet is that the poet is not trying to teach you a lesson. It's not propositional language. The poet is trying to make you look at yourself, right? And so because the poet is being, this mirrors himself back to himself. So if you notice, Robert Frost doesn't stop building the wall, and neither does he go on to the other side of the wall. He stays on his side, and he says here, we keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. They're both participating in the building of the wall.
Right.
Okay. It's not just the neighbor building the wall and he has to help him. No, this is their job to do together, because the one picks up the boulders on his side and the one picks up the boulders on his side.
Right.
You know? And so I think it's more of a inquiry into the nature of human violence and why walls are necessary. And the question he asks of the neighbor, like he says here, there's a little bit of a key, I think, where he says, first of all, we have to use a spell to make them balance. That's very cool. And then he says, we wear our fingers rough with handling them.
Yeah.
We wear ourselves down. Okay. So he's always including himself in this. And then he says, then he starts thinking, well, we don't even need the wall because we don't know. Neither one of us has livestock, right? Like his pine trees are going to come over and eat my apple trees. And so he says, spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Right? So have you ever done that to someone? Have you ever, out of your own curiosity for the question you can't answer yourself, you put a notion in somebody's head and see what they come up with?
Sure.
So that's what he does. And so he's not judging. He's not judging because he's building the wall too. Can you read the stanzas before and after the boulders again, please? Okay. Let's see here.
You want me to share it? I have it on I have it as
Yeah.
well. Okay, I'll share it so everyone can read along. Mending Wall. There it is. You go ahead.
So before the boulders, something, I'm just going to read that.
Yeah, there's really only one stanza. It's like there's no stanzas in the poem.
Yeah, something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it. And that's the mystery, right? The something. What is that doesn't love a wall?
And I think that is in Robert Frost. And it's clearly not in his neighbor.
Well, I think that's judging. You don't know that.
No, Robert Frost says down at the bottom, he says.
I think he's making a general observation about humanity, because I don't know how to stress this, he is participating in the building of the wall. And out of curiosity, he puts a notion in the neighbor's head to see what kind of, maybe he's going to have a better answer than what Frost is thinking about. Okay. And in the end, the neighbor's answer is basically the wisdom of ancestor, right? So it's not a conscious building of a wall. It's not like, okay, I got to keep this guy out of my and they're working together at building the wall.
Yeah, they arranged for a day to do it.
But it's an acknowledgement that wall needs to be built, because there's potential there. I think Frost is aware of that potential in himself. Because, well, I mean, if you read anything about who he was as a person, he could be very abrasive, Okay.
Yeah.
He was a very abrasive, like he was quite known to be very abrasive and aloof and, kind of guy.
He was a
right?
J.D. Salinger, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got all kinds of walls, Jeremy. But he's just curious. He's just curious. Here's the reason I say this is because I have a son who argues about everything. If I say one thing, he says the opposite.
Yeah.
And it just, I used to think, does he think I'm stupid or what? And actually, no, he does it to me because he thinks I'm smart. And he wants to know. He wants to know. He pushes me to my limit, honestly.
Yeah.
My first of all, my intellectual ability or capability, and then also my my temperament sometimes pushes me to the limit, right? Because he needs to hear it from me. He's processing like that.
Yeah.
And I used to, until I realized that, I was like, this kid is driving me insane.
Yeah.
But then I realized, no, this is how he doesn't say, why, what? Some people are like that, right? They're like, why, but why, but why, but why? And then you get to the end of yourself with that question, right? With kids.
Yeah. Right.
But he would push me to the end of myself by arguing with very logical, very sound arguments. And, even his wife now will say to him, apparently I'm not the only person he does it to, right? He does it to his friends. And she would say, you can't talk to people like that because you put them all on the defensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how he finds things out. That's his way of inquiring.
See, I guess I still come back to the last few lines where he goes, I see him there bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed.
Mm-hmm.
He moves in darkness, as it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not of woods only and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying. That's a judgment right there. He will not go behind his father's saying. And he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors.
Right. But you have to give Frost the benefit of the doubt. He wasn't an intellectual, actually, Jeremy, that lived on a farm. He was a farmer that got a job as an intellectual. He hated his job. Okay. And he also had more respect for the natural world than he did for the human one. That's why he was curmudgeon-y. And
I see that as this doesn't sway my argument at all. To me,
no, wait, I'm getting there. I'm slowly,
all right.
slowly.
Okay.
And so, and he's making an observation about humanity as a whole, including himself, right? So he's saying that if it wasn't for the wall and the building of the wall, the stones could be used as weapon and to kill each other with, right?
Sure.
He moves in darkness, as it seems to me. That's just from my perspective. It just seems like that. He's moving in darkness, right? And then he says, he will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. That
sounds condescending to me. I'm sorry. I can't get over it. It just sounds patronizing to me.
That's handed down wisdom. And that's how, I was thinking about this the other day too. Okay. So, handed down wisdom doesn't always have a good reason.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why good fences make good neighbors. That's the reason. Done. Right.
Right.
So one of the things I learned when I was in Switzerland was that, because I went to a country that was very old and had much tradition and handed down wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother-in-law and other people too in Switzerland would say to me things like, "Das macht man einfach so," which means we just do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say, "Well, why you could do it like that." No, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do it that way. We do it this way. Like there was a way to stir a fondue, okay,
Right.
when you're making it
Right.
ready. It has to be in an 8, and it has to be with a wooden spoon that looks like this one, and, you
That
know.
sounds just like how I learned to make gravy. You have to
Yeah.
stir around the edges, back and forth,
And I'd be
3
like,
times, and then
"What?
stir around the edge, back
Why?"
and forth, back
You
and forth.
know, and I was always questioning everything, and
Yeah.
I could piss people off very quickly when I hit on to those ancestral wisdom things,
Mm.
okay? Where, nope, that's just how it's done here. In other
Right.
words, don't ask any more questions, right?
Right.
And it's because that kind of wisdom, if the wall had never been built, let's say, the people would not be alive to pass on the wisdom because they would have killed each other by now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, I would say the wisdom, so the fence to me seems to be boundaries, and his view of the other guy is the lack of understanding.
That's how Jeremy's taking it, but I'm really fighting against this because
Oh, it's good. This is good. I like it.
you like it?
Yeah, no, I'm not upset at all. This doesn't bother me.
No, I know.
I like to
the
have
challenge.
someone else. Yeah, I like it. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, because what poetry is it's incarnational. So what it's doing is that it's symbolos, Jeremy. It's bringing the words and the symbol together. It's throwing them together, right? The word, logos, and the symbol, like the human being in this case, right? Yeah. Or the stone. It's all symbolic language in poetry. You have to remember that. Right. So
but poets can be condescending. They can be dicks. Just because it's a poem doesn't mean he's not being an asshole.
But they're usually dicks to themselves.
Okay.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Because what is happening when for most poets, even Bukowski, right, is the thing ends up reflecting them to themselves. Okay. And so he's thinking maybe he has a better idea, like me with my mother-in-law. Well, why couldn't you do it like this? Right. Mm-hmm. And then all he gets back is this ancestral wisdom of we just do it that way.
It's like super irrational. It's like
it doesn't. There's no reason. Yeah. No. It's honestly there. I could say that about my mother-in-law, and she will not go behind her father's saying, and she likes having thought of it so well. I could say that about her because she literally would say that to me. We just
but you have to admit you were a little frustrated in those experiences. Generally, you were a little you're butting up against super rational wisdom.
Only because I didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand actually the generational wisdom in it, right?
Yeah.
And when I began to understand the generational wisdom, guess what I said to people?
It's just how we do it.
It's just how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would also feel good about myself, right? And I would not go back on my father's saying, right? So he's sharing this experience of, like poking somebody, putting a notion in their head, just so if he could elicit some kind of answer that might go beyond the thing he's expecting, which is good fences make good neighbors. And he's doing it while building the wall. That's the thing. You have to remember that he is too building it. He's building it. He's not building the wall.
Correct. But as you know, living in a farm community, especially your neighbor, if it's a long ongoing relationship, there are certain things you'll do that you don't want to do, but they need to be done, and you have to maintain the relationship beyond your own feelings about the person, right? So, so I think we've talked about it before, where it's hay season, and you need to haul hay, and you only have 2 sons, but the neighbors have 3 sons, and the other neighbors have 2 sons, and the other neighbors have 3 sons, and they all come over and help you haul hay, but then you go help them haul hay, even though you think your neighbor is a jerk and you can't stand him. His boys still come help you haul hay, and you still go over there and help him haul hay. That doesn't mean that you respect the person that you're going to help haul hay with. It just means that that's something that is done. And I understand that Robert Frost is also acting out this ritual, but I don't know if he would if his neighbor didn't. Like if his neighbor didn't, would Robert Frost be out there fixing his side of the fence?
Let's go with your assumption that he doesn't like his neighbor and he's being condescending and he thinks he's better than his neighbor.
Yes.
He's still building the wall.
Would he if his neighbor wouldn't, though? Like if he didn't arrange that with his neighbor.
Well, he's irritated. He's irritated by the hunters who break the wall. He's irritated by the Frostwells, right?
Fair.
Okay. He's irritated by the fact that, people just go wreck the wall and leave it open and don't fix it and,
Yes.
And he says, I let my neighbor know beyond the hill. He's the one that initiated it. Okay? To build the wall.
So I don't think he's judging. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with what you're saying as far as process participating in it. But
and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again.
Right.
We keep the wall between us as we go.
Yes.
To each the boulders that have fallen, to each. And then he also says, he is all pine and I am apple orchard. What does that say to you? Think symbolically.
He's evergreen and I'm in the Garden of Eden being tempted.
He is evergreen. Okay, so he never changes. And I am seasonal. I'm constantly changing with the seasons. I'm blossoming. I'm filling up with fruit. I'm dropping my fruit. I'm losing my leaves,
Spring is causing me some.
Yeah, he's moody. He's moody. He's one of those guys. He's affected by the seasons, right? But not his neighbor. His neighbor's stalwart. He's evergreen. He's solid. He's always the same. And that's why his neighbor is the one who says, good fences make good neighbors. Because he's not going to go behind his father's saying. He's evergreen. Like, this is how you have to read poetry.
Well, it's not how I have to read it. I can read it however I want. And if a guy's getting kind of uppity about why I'm fixing my side of the fence, I'm just going to walk away and let him fix it.
Yeah, but he doesn't say that to his neighbor. He doesn't tell him he's wrong. He doesn't tell him he's wrong.
Yeah, he ends the poem because he's a coward.
Okay. You have to take the meaning from it the way that you...
I am taking the meaning from it from the way that means a lot to me. And what it sounds like to me is a neighbor who doesn't have boundaries, who's upset at someone who has boundaries because he actually envies it. He envies the man who has boundaries and doesn't think about it and doesn't need to think about it because he's a well-developed man who understands the value of boundaries. And I don't think Robert Frost does. I think Robert Frost struggles with it, or the author, the person in the poem, the character in the poem is struggling with his.
No.
Why not? Why not? Why is he not? Why?
Because I know Robert Frost's biography.
It doesn't matter what Robert Frost, because this character can be a character that's not Robert Frost.
But he's talking about himself.
We don't know that.
Before no, he says I.
Well, that's what poems do. Poems can do that without talking about the poet itself. It's a character in the poem. And I'm saying the character in the poem is much less comfortable with firm boundaries and doesn't really see the necessity for them, especially when it's not warranted by necessity, right? So it's like, why do we need to have boundaries just for boundary's sake?
But then why did he let his neighbor know that the fence was falling down? And why did he arrange for them to meet? And why did he stay on his
keep good relationships with his neighbor? Because that's what you have to do in a farming community. You have to keep a relationship even with somebody you don't respect. That's a necessity of living in a farming community.
Well, I think you missed the point that he's actually building the wall. He is building a wall.
Yeah, he's building a wall and he doesn't know why.
With building walls. And he wants to know why walls are built, because he doesn't know why he builds walls around himself.
And he doesn't like his neighbor's answer.
Okay.
I'm saying we're both making a coherent case. They're obviously incompatible. And this is the great thing about poetry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we can both cite evidence all day long. But I'm just telling you, I haven't been convinced that Robert Frost thinks highly of his neighbor or respects him, or I think he envies him and wants to be like him, but can't say that, and so he mocks him instead.
Okay.
But and the reason, obviously, that sounds like a very trivial thing to write a poem about, but I do believe that Robert Frost is someone who builds boundaries in spite of himself and would rather not, but doesn't know how to stop. But he actually realizes that he's the weird one for wondering why they do it. I think this is a self-conscious poem, but I think he's also hiding behind judging his neighbor over it. But I don't think he's, anyway, go ahead.
I would think that if you think about it for just a second, the most difficult person for us to know is ourselves. And what most poets are doing is exploring who they are. That's why I'm telling you that a lot of poetry is a mirror back, right? It's an inquiry into who am I? Who am I? And so that's why I don't think that he doesn't think there should be fences built. I actually think that he admires the neighbor for being satisfied with the answer that he gives, because
I agree with you.
Because Robert Frost, his inability to understand himself doesn't allow him to just say that and go away. He wants to know more. It's kind of like the rich young ruler who says to Jesus, "How can I be good?" And Jesus says, "Follow the commandments." He goes, "No, but I want more. I want more." Right? And but anyway, that's just my interpretation.
Yeah. It's, I mean, obviously you've given me a new way to think about it, and I'll need some time to think about it and sit with it. But I think it's because
he sees himself when he sees the guy with the 2 stones in his hands. And I've always thought that when I read that poem. I think he sees himself. He's like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do.
See, and I need to think about this line. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only and the shade of trees.
Right. It's a spiritual darkness.
Yeah, it's a darkness.
And it's also it's this unknowing of who I am, right? Who am I? That is totally a reflection of Robert Frost's own dilemma, like the dilemma he has. Why am I doing this? I don't know. So that's why I believe it's a mirror, right? So the neighbor is mirroring, but the neighbor is also the pine. He's steady, he's steadfast, he never changes. Frost is the seasonal one, right? Who's going around in this never-ending cycle of up and down and up and down, and death and rebirth and all this,
Yeah.
And so, somehow he envies the man who can be satisfied with that answer.
Yeah, I agree. But I think he hides that envy behind derision, because that's how envy manifests itself.
Yeah, well, maybe he's the anger's not with the neighbor but with himself.
I don't know. See, I still feel like the last three, like, he will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. Like, that seems really sardonic to me. Like, that seems really condescending to me. That second, and he likes having.
Robert Frost has very well succeeded in making a fence between you and him, hasn't he? In this poem.
Yeah, and I love a lot of Frost's other poems, but in this one, I have always related with the neighbor, and I was just like, the neighbor is the normal one here. What is your problem? Like,
I have a book. Is it Frost? I think. Oh no, it was in that course. I was reading a bunch of. Somebody transcribed a bunch of Frost's lectures, and he was not very lectury. Like, he was not very intellectual. He rambled. He was kind of in his own, like, he wasn't talking to a group of people, but he was talking to himself, mumbling and muttering.
Oh, like Jordan Peterson?
Maybe, but even like Jordan Peterson is extroverted. I would say Robert Frost was completely introverted. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I had to sit through that class, I think I'd go insane. And it wasn't like, it was kind of like, what's the word you use? Sardonic?
Yes. A
lot of the stuff that he was saying, which is something that I think people who see something and they know that no matter how they say it, nobody will see what they see. That's kind of how they get. Like, Bukowski is very much like that. Right? Like, Bukowski's a bastard, right, of a poet.
Yeah.
You read his poetry and you're like, you're such a bastard. But he reflects you back to you, right? And that's because he's reflecting him back to him. I think that's what poetry does most of the time. And I mean, because when Robert Frost stops by the woods on a snowy evening, he worries about his neighbor there. He says, I know my neighbor won't mind if I stop to look, right, at the snow filling up his woods. Yeah. He thinks about the respect for, gazing upon somebody else's property or something like that, right? Yeah, and there are other great poems about, like, the reason I like this poem is because, to me, when I remember reading it the first time and going, absolutely right. We need walls, right? Otherwise, we will kill each other.
Right.
That's what I took from the poem. And
I agree.
He says it in a very tangible, actually building a fence with the neighbor, right? Who he calls his neighbor, who he phones or sends a letter to or stops by and lets him know the fence is down. They have a relationship, you know? And yet the irony of the whole thing to me is that they actually spent the whole day building the wall together, rebuilding the wall, because it needs to. Because you know what? There's only one reason: good fences make good neighbors.
Yes, I agree with that, and I hear what you're saying. I just I guess I'm not being as charitable to Robert Frost as you are. That's what it comes down to. Because I've had neighbors who I couldn't stand, who we still helped each other, and that's where it comes from. This comes from personal experience for me, where both of us were just like, ugh. But you can't let it like grind to a halt, because there are certain things that are bigger than you, right?
We had
that have bigger bigger consequences.
Yeah, we had two neighbors here when we first moved here. One of them is, so I live in a little place called Meldrum Creek. It's not a town or anything. It's just is Meldrum Creek. It had a post office like 70 years ago, and it's the schoolhouse, and there were more people here, but they're gone now. And so there's a guy down the road named Willie Meldrum. So guess what? His father and grandfather were here, right? It's Meldrum Creek because of Willie Meldrum's family. And then this other guy, Eric Rie, came from England in the 50s, and he bought a big ranch, and then he started buying up other stuff around the area. And they were neighbors. Like, they shared fence lines. And I don't know what happened. Nobody told the story. Don't talk about that stuff, right? But they didn't like each other. But every year when Eric branded, everybody in the neighborhood, like me and my husband and our kids, we all go there, for branding. And Willie Meldrum would stand at the chute, and he would dehorn the calves. So, they have this iron that they put on there and burn the horns or the nubs.
Yeah.
And his whole family didn't come, and it was a big deal. Like, there was food served, like it was an all day thing. There's like 400 calves to do.
Right.
And Willie would just stand there at the chute, and he would dehorn all those calves and just wouldn't say a word to nobody. And then when he was done, he went home, across the street.
Right.
And he never asked Eric for any help at his ranch. He had cows too. He never asked anyone for help, actually. Like, nobody in the neighborhood. Eric always had the whole neighborhood there, But Willie just did everything on his own.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway. But I've called Willie and asked him for help, and he's come and helped. He'll come and help me. I mean, I've never had a fight with him,
Yeah, right.
But he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I don't know, he got burned, I guess, and burned. What is that? Once burnt, twice shy, something like that. So anyway, but I don't sense that from that poem. I don't sense that these are two people that don't like each other. I get the sense that Robert Frost in his like, he actually says, just dawned on me. So he talks about the pine, I'm an apple orchard, right? And then he says, spring is the mischief in me. Mischief. Right. Okay. And I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. So he's, can I break this spell? Because there is a spell. He talks about that too. Where's that?
Up above. We have to use a spell to make them balance.
Yeah.
Stay where you are.
So they're literally using spells to balance the rock. Like, they're, anyway, so he describes himself as the apple orchard, right? That is prone to the seasonal, and spring is the mischief in me. And and his neighbor is the stalwart, right? Never changing. It's always green. And that's why, because he will not go behind his father's saying, right? So he stays the same. And he says, so Frost is mischievous, trying to put a notion in his head, see if he can budge him, right? Curious, wondering, and the neighbor is exactly what he describes him as, the pine, right?
Peasant wisdom, yeah.
He just stays the same. So anyway, enough is enough.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I can't let go of
your experience.
Some of the tone, my experience and some of the tone of voice that I hear when I read this poem. I hear it in a different tone. I hear it as a city person not understanding country life, but willing to go through the ritual, but wants it all explained to him, and then gets a little uppity when no one cares to explain it to him, or doesn't see the need to explain it to him.
Well, that other stanza, or that other thing he says, something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down, right? There is something in us that doesn't want a wall, right? I mean, people talk about this all the time. We need to have unity. I could say elves to him, elves, but it's not elves exactly. And I'd rather he said it for himself. So he's asking for a moment of, in honesty, like maybe like a paradisiacal moment where you wish there weren't walls, but that's a fleeting moment, right? And yeah, I don't know. It's a mischievous, curious, put a notion in someone's head, see what they come up with. But being the pine tree that he is, the neighbor just stays the same.
Right. And then I don't think Robert Frost thinks highly of him as a result. That's my whole point.
He might not, but that's because he's willing to maybe wander off the beaten path, right? Because he's a poet. So he wants to explore what if, and he sees that there is something out there that doesn't want a wall. And he's honest enough to say it. And he wants his neighbor to say it. The neighbor won't say it because he's right.
Well, and he says, because I mean, this is where I'm saying I keep coming back to the judgment thing, because he wants his neighbor to say it, and instead he looks up and he sees, I see him there bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. So he's like, oh, I'm trying to have a conversation with a caveman, and I'm wasting my time because all he can do is
no. I think it's more than that.
His grandparents to me, and I don't have the patience for it.
Well, I mean, maybe that's what he's saying, but the way that I've always read that is that I'm looking at someone who could kill me. So let's get this wall built, man. And I could kill him if I want to be that honest about it. I'm the same. I'm
fair. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see you reading in it, and that's. I mean, yeah, he's realizing.
That's the gravity of this whole poem to me, is that the reason that the fence is being built, the wall is being built, is so that we don't kill each other. And that's sad. And that's why he says there's something there is that doesn't love a wall. Right? Because the only reason we need the wall is because if we don't have the wall, we're going to harm one another.
It reminds me of the Heinlein quote: "An armed society is a polite society."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
He's
threat
both.
of mutual violence
Yeah,
that keeps things calm between men generally.
he's both acknowledging by building the wall that we need a wall, but he's grieving the fact that we need a wall at the same time.
That's fair. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't, like I said, I think the whole thing is, I think he's frustrated at his neighbor because his neighbor won't do this philosophical dance with him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think he is too. But not because he thinks he's just a dumbass. He's frustrated at the neighbor because the neighbor is the nature of humanity. Like the neighbor it's a bigger picture. And
Fair.
he's part of that. Yeah. He's part of that, right? So that's why I say he's grieving the fact that the wall has to be there, even though he's building it with the neighbor, right? He can do both of those things. And like I said, like the neighbor being the pine, he never changes, right? He can also admire that without thinking about anything, because this is the thing. Robert Frost is thinking.
Right.
The neighbor is not thinking. The neighbor is just saying ancestral wisdom. But that ancestral wisdom is saving their lives, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's a back and forth. It's joy and mourning, right? Joy and mourning at the same time, which is something that I mentioned in the talk that I gave at Southeastuary, that I think poets are always in that tension. They're always in the tension of what is and what could be. Right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, I'll sit with it.
Okay.
Because I'm not, I definitely see I do like the opening up to a wider view. I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, a lot of this is rooted in personal experience for me, where both of us spoke of the other with derision, or at least thought it in our head. But there was still work to be done, right? And I think that this might be, I don't know how this will sound, but I think that Jordan Peterson pointed this out. The reason why having women in the workplace is so disruptive is because for however long that we know, men have been working together, and what underlies a male relationship is this underlying threat of violence, especially in a rival kind of situation or in a competitive environment. And the price for violence is very high and could be even fatal. And so there's a lot of social negotiation that has come into play that allows men to work through things and forgive each other quickly, generally, in order to not have it escalate to violence, right? And there are other ways of kind of alleviating those tensions besides just punching each other. But this is actually also a very recent development. I mean, you watch movies from the 1950s and a guy says something that you don't like, and that's what you do. You punch him in the mouth, right?
Yeah. Or you grab the woman and throw up against the wall and kiss her, even though
that too, right? Yeah, you grab the guy and pull him across the desk and punch him, or you grab the girl and throw her against the wall, right? It was, and so,
and she cries, "No, please!" And then she goes, "Oh," and faints.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And so, in this poem, I think I might be tuned in a bit more to the underlying tension between two men who may not like each other, who still need to do something.
Okay, let me just share this with you, okay?
Okay. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen between women, but I'm saying it's a different dynamic between two women who don't like each other versus two men who don't like each other.
Yeah. Women,
So, anyway.
but they both will kill each other. They just do it differently.
Correct. Yeah. The woman will eat your heart before she kills you. It's like she will eat your heart as you're watching her as you die. Right.
Yes. Yeah. She'll ravage your reputation, which is a form of disfigurement.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I said before she eats your heart, she will destroy any reputation you have in the whole world.
Yeah. Anyway. which is a kind of disfigurement. And get this, like I've thought about this, women are objects of beauty. They're perceived as objects of beauty. To be disfigured is not to be beautiful. Right. It's the worst possible scenario for a woman.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how women kill things. They disfigure them. So
yeah, actually, in college, I had that happen. I was talking to a girl, and then she left, and this other girl came up to me. She's like, "Why are you talking to her?" I'm like, "I don't know. We're having a good time." And she goes, "Well, she has AIDS." I'm like, "Okay." I bet she does. And how would you know that? It was hilarious. Anyway, it was a very 18-year-old attempt at reputation assassination. But
okay, so I just want to read you something just as a thought provocation.
Sure.
About Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. And I read this years ago, and I was really disappointed because I totally misinterpreted the poem. Okay?
I've heard this.
The Road Not Taken is often misinterpreted as a simple anthem for individualism. However, Frost intended it as a subtle, ironic reflection on choices, regret, and the human tendency to romanticize past decisions. The absolute opposite.
Right.
Okay. Highlighting that both paths were actually quite similar, and the sigh at the end conveys wistfulness for the unchosen life, not just triumph for the chosen one. And then it says here, the joke origin. Frost wrote the poem for his friend Edward Thomas, who often regretted their choices of walking paths in England. The poem gently mocks Thomas's indecisiveness and inquiring and lingering what ifs. Equally worn paths. The crucial detail is that the paths were really about the same, both equally covered in leaves, challenging the idea that one was truly less traveled or inherently better. The sigh of difference. The final stanza's sigh isn't necessarily one of pride, but of melancholy for the life not lived, acknowledging the inherent loss in any choice, as you can't experience both paths. Human limitation. The poem speaks to the universal human experience of making choices with incomplete information and the inevitable regret or longing for the alternatives. And yeah, in essence, Frost isn't telling you to take the harder road. He's observing how we feel about the choices we make and how we later interpret them. Which really bummed me out because I wanted him to be telling me that I should take the road less traveled.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's always got to be the better road.
Yeah, that was actually the poem he read.
That
was the poem he read at the JFK's inauguration.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet you
furthering the joke, I guess.
Yeah. And I wonder if JFK actually knew the irony behind it all, right?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, that there's a room for another reading of it, but I don't know if this needs to be an either or view between Shari's view and Jeremy's view. I think there's a lot of overlap. And I think that we're coming at it from different angles and different past experiences.
Well, yeah, you know what? I should say this, that I totally agree with you that, he is irritated by the neighbor, but I don't think he thinks he's better. I actually think he could be irritated by the fact that he isn't like the neighbor.
And that's fair. That's a fair assessment. And I would not have a problem with that. I would not have a problem with seeing it that way.
Don't you envy sometimes simple faith?
Yes. Well, Dostoevsky talks about that. He said, I'll never have the pure faith of a peasant standing in front of an icon crying while lighting candles for her ancestors, right? Like I'll
Right.
just never have that.
Yeah. And because
Pure faith.
you're tortured. You're tortured. You're the tortured one if you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is what he's saying when he describes himself as the apple orchard.
Yeah.
I think so. But who knows? I'm just doing my interpretation of it.
Right. No, I enjoy these conversations. It's good.
Me too. I love it.
Good.
I'm really glad we ended up doing this.
Yeah, me too. It's been a fun
I couldn't think of anything better to talk about than poetry, actually, Jeremy. Well, Lives of the Saints, and which is a
form of poetry, yeah, for sure. There's definitely poetic patterns in the Lives of the Saints.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, I think it's time for me to go to bed because I have work tomorrow. So, and you have work tomorrow, and your work actually requires you to like do things with your body. Mine just requires me to do things with my brain. Wears on me, but it's all right.
Are you saying that I don't think much?
You were saying that you have, I mean, there are certain tasks that have to be done that do give you nice thought time, right? So,
I love it.
Yeah.
I remember early on in the corner, I'd be involved in this like deep conversation with somebody and talking. Then I'd be like, I got to go do my chores. And they're usually while doing chores, things would sift down and move around, and I'd get like this crazy insight into something, and after a while, I craved it. Like I'd be reading a book and I'd be like, my mind would feel like scrambled eggs. And then I'd be like, I'm going to go turn the compost for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Cause it was the best. All my thinking was like, just fantastic.
Well, this goes back to St. Anthony the Great that we read tonight, where he said he wanted to go in the desert, and then he had the vision of the angel who would pray for a while, and then he would work.
Right.
And that's exactly right. That's a good balanced life.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I looked it up because I read somewhere once that Einstein used to fall asleep, like he used to take these naps. Because there's this like liminal space when you're between waking and sleeping where you often get like incredible insight.
Edison did it too.
Yeah, there were a number of them.
In a chair. Edison he would put a pie tin on the floor. He would sit on a chair and he would hold a spoon in his hand.
Yeah.
And he would just start resting.
Nodding
off. And he was thinking, nodding off. And then when he would drop the spoon and it would hit the pie tin and it would wake him up and he would write down whatever he was thinking about.
Yeah.
And you said that's where a lot of his ideas came from.
I often have the experience that when I wake up, I have some crazy, huge thought in the morning, like first thing, like just some like, epiphany, and I'll be like, run up, it was a joke in my family. Like it was either a dream or that, I'd like run down for breakfast and be like, you know what I realized?
That's funny.
Eureka! Every morning.
That's funny.
But it's interesting that people figure that out. They just figure it out on their own. Like they're attending, right?
Right.
They're like, oh, my best ideas are when I'm waking up, Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I get those ideas, and generally, it reminds me of a story I heard of a guy who, he was just getting into using LSD, and he had this one experience and it was like fantastic. And he was like, I had all these insights and he was really excited because it was going to change his life. And then, he woke up the next day and couldn't remember anything that happened. Like he couldn't remember any of his insights and he was so upset. So like just really felt like he had lost a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
So he decided to do the trip again, and he's like, okay, this time I'm going to have a notebook. I'm going to write down all my insights so that I can remember the next day. So he had a notebook, and he goes through the same experience, and he starts having all these insights. He's writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And he was just like, oh, good. I'm so glad I captured it this time. And he fell asleep, and he woke up the next morning, and he had just written, think new thoughts. Oh, wow. Over and over and over and over again in his notebook. Think new thoughts.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say that kind of what happened to me. Like I get these insights, and I start like actually trying to track it or trying to tie it, and then all of a sudden I go, no, nope, that's not.
Yeah.
Although think new thoughts is actually a pretty good insight.
Yeah. There was something said on the live stream this morning about not lying to yourself or something, don't be so deluded that you lie to yourself. And I thought, if you're deluded, you don't even know you're lying to yourself.
Right.
I've lied to myself like for years.
Oh yeah, same.
Thought it was. Well, I thought I was right.
That's what ego death. That's what ego death is when you realize you have been lying to yourself. I think.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the deal. Like, this was always my problem with Vervaeke talking about not bullshitting yourself. Well, how do you know you're not bullshitting yourself?
Right.
You can't know that. It's like asking you to stand behind yourself and look. Right. It's impossible.
Right. It's why you need people around you.
Even then.
I mean, it helps to have that feedback. And but I mean, especially like a spiritual father. Or,
yeah.
But your spouse will generally not let you lie to yourself.
Well, and that's the one person that you can trust. Hopefully,
yes.
Right.
Yes, because they will say, "Look, you're being."
I mean, they'll really piss you off in the process. But
yes, exactly. Of course.
Yeah.
That's the point.
But like I've actually, because of John Vervaeke's whole not bullshitting you. Sorry for keeping you, but
it's fine.
I'll make it quick.
That's fine.
I thought, is this really the thing we need to worry about? Because because you could actually start eating your own tail if you went worried about that too much, right?
Yes, right.
So what?
Because you have nothing to measure against, really.
Yeah, and then I thought, well, wait a minute. The whole human story begins with deception.
Right.
And somehow it's a seed of development. It's a part, like, dare I say, of becoming. Right? It's the first opponent processing, let's say. Where you and then if you think about the whole way we learn things, how do we learn? If I say I want to learn how to play the piano, what do you expect to happen to me? That I'm going to make mistakes.
Right.
Because if I don't make mistakes, I won't learn.
Right.
And that goes to that verse that my sister loves so much, and I think is also really good, is that we are overcomers. In other words, there's obstacles that we have got to climb over, right?
Yeah. Walls, you could say.
Walls. Right. And that we are, I don't remember exactly, Tracy knows this verse really good. Something, our salvation, it's in Revelation, by the word of our testimony. It's not we are saved, but it indicates something like that. Maybe look it up. By the word of their testimony.
Okay. Well, this is not a helpful search. It's like trying to interpret what I'm saying and giving me all these loose.
I just go verse. I always write verse.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I was using a Bible software. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death.
Yeah. I it's so great by the word of their testimony, because that's your life, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It's not how you got saved. It's your life story, which is what this podcast is about. It's about the lives of the saints. It's the word of their testimony. What it is. And that's how they overcame. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Yeah.
And have not loved their life unto death. And they have not loved their life unto death. Anyway, maybe that's a good place to end it.
Yeah. Well, that chapter is very powerful. Chapter 12, Revelation chapter 12 is where that's from.
Yeah, maybe I'll just read the greater context. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now have come the salvation and power of the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, he who accuses them day and night before our God. They have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so as to shy away from death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, with great fury the devil has come down to you, knowing he has only a short time.
Yep. That's a good place to stop.
Amen. All right.
Thank you all for coming watching. Nobody wanted to join us.
Our little
That's all right.
Poetry battle.
Yeah, our little wrestling over the Mending Wall, which is great. And it is. Here's the deal. I actually really like that poem. Yeah,
because it's working. It's working.
It's good. But yeah. Thanks all for coming. Next week I'll probably have to do it on Wednesday again.
Yeah, okay. Just keep me posted. And yeah. Thanks very much, Jeremy.
Thank you all. And thank you, Shari. God bless you. Good night.
Good night.